now Biden's president. It still says on his campaign website, that never got taken down, right? That he wants there to be this public health insurance option. Kamala Harris, who said at one point that she agreed with Bernie about Medicare for all, is the vice president. A lot of these other people are, Pete Buttigieg, said he wanted at least Medicare for all who wanted. And like he's in the cabinet. There are all these people who are back to being senators. And it's like, well, that's what they, when they had to position themselves to win that primary, they said that they cared about like all, the millions of Americans who don't have health care, or the like millions more who maybe even do have health care.
How about they said they were going to decriminalize marijuana and release everybody that was in jail for it?
Yeah, when's that happening?
Exactly. It's all bullshit. It's
Yeah.
all bullshit, but that is the sort of stuff that we're talking about, that they don't really believe these things. They're saying these things because they believe this is what people want to hear, and that gets those people out to the polls. Get those people out to the booths and gets them to vote. And this is unfortunately where we find ourselves as a culture until we can read minds. And Elon Musk, hurry up with that technology. We need to be actually able to read people's minds. So
yeah, I don't know that I want Elon to be able to read my mind.
You're going to read his mind too, though. And you're going to see, oh my God. Why'd you write this book?
Yeah, I wrote this book because I was pissed off. I think more than any other book that I've written, it came out of like intense frustration that I was feeling at that time, because I saw a lot of people who I think like on paper, they agree with me about like most of what I've said tonight, maybe not the free speech part, but like, most of the rest of it, like, who were doing all of these things that seemed to me like they were either feeding into these absolutely ridiculous sideshows that like stop people from actually focusing on these issues that we're talking about, the title, right? The title example, canceling comedians, people who would like freak out, about like what Dave Chappelle says in a stand-up special, as if like the things that you say in a stand-up special are like an editorial that you're writing for the New York Times about like exactly what you want to happen, right? Like that,
right.
Like every sentence, Dave Chappelle has said in the stand-up special is literally what he thinks. And I think that like one, to anybody you're trying to appeal to like actually build some kind of like political program to actually accomplish any of the stuff I've talked about, like what does that make you look like? That makes you look like an overgrown hall monitor, right? Nobody is going to want to follow that person anywhere, nor should they, right? Like that because that's just incredibly damaging and unappealing. And I wanted like, I mean, it's funny because I think that like, when I sort of use that as the example in the title, right? Like I was kind of trying to come up with like the most ridiculous example that I could come up with, right? Like, that like people would be like, in terms of like ridiculous priorities or sort of people being like weird moralistic scolds, like, what would be the biggest example? Not getting mad at like corporate CEOs who bust unions, not getting mad at like, politicians who commit war crimes, but, like maybe you get mad at those people too, but like somehow, my friend, I disagree with him about a lot of things, but he is my friend, Dave Smith, heard him talk about the outrage budget. Right?
How dare you disagree with Dave Smith about anything?
Well, I'm pretty sure that he disagrees with a whole lot of things you agreed with that I said earlier, but
no, Dave's awesome. I'm just joking.
Yeah. But no, I mean, like, but I think he is a good guy, and he's, I've been on his show several times, and
he has well thought out perspectives.
Yeah, he has.
You may agree or may not agree, but you can see where he's coming from.
Yeah, I can see where he's coming from, and the other thing that I really respect about him is that I think that like a lot of libertarians, like even though they'll like agree on paper, like that, like with we shouldn't be fighting these wars, we should like there shouldn't be all these people in prison or whatever. It seems like in practice, what really gets them excited is like tax cuts, right? And I think that. And I think Dave is genuinely not like that. I think that he actually devotes way, as far as I've ever been able to see, he actually devotes way less time to stuff like that than to like the United States backing this genocidal Saudi war in Yemen.
That's the big thing with Dave. It's interventionist foreign policy and the corporate backing of these horrible regime change wars. That's the thing that he hates more than anything. Yeah. And the actual cost of human lives and suffering You know, he's a deeply compassionate person. He really firmly opposes these things, and he wants to talk about them whenever he can. And it's one of those things where, I mean, he talked on my podcast about how that got him kind of booted off of those political talk shows on cable.
Yeah, because nobody wants to hear about dead kids in Yemen. Like
Exactly.
what they want to hear about
Exactly.
is like whatever culture war thing people are
Right.
screaming about each other. You know,
Whether that UPenn swimmer should be able to compete with women.